G'day guys, welcome back to another episode of the Build Insite Podcast. Today we have an absolute powerhouse woman who is making waves with her work in the Australian Passive House Association, the CEO, Alexia Lidas. Alexia, it is absolutely great to have you take time out of your busy schedule so that you can join us today. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your journey on becoming the CEO of the Passive House Association, and maybe a quick brief on what Passive House is, just for the listeners that don't know?
My background, I've been working in the built environment and advocacy for about 20 years. I've worked across a variety of different issues. Super boring ones for some people, but interesting for me. So I've negotiated contract terms for roads, bridges and rail. Not a lawyer, but did start studying law last year. I have worked across the future of the built environment. So looking at issues of built automation, AI, socioeconomics, geopolitics, and how that impacts the businesses and the market that we operate in. In that work, we had a private think tank where I would give advice to CEOs of manufacturing companies, engineering companies, and architectural practices, primarily, some building companies. It was pretty interesting work. I've been in the executive team at the Institute of Architects. And then I got to a stage in my career where I really wanted to connect design to built form, but have performance measured. It seemed like the missing piece. And around that time, Kate Nason from Frasers was the chair at AFA, and she contacted me and said, "Were you interested in a CEO's role?" And I love it. It's, the most amazing place to be. It's such an interesting group of people that will go above and beyond to make sure that the project isn't just built and looking nice, but is performing at a really superior and outstanding quality. The building standard was developed in Germany. It's backed by 30 years of science. And Passive House is really about putting quality assurance at an even platform with performance. So not only are we saying that a building's going to perform, but we're actually checking through a variety. There's 11 quality assurance steps in the Passive House certification process and the Passive House standard, and they all need to be met to be able to say that a building is a Passive House.
I'm just going to reiterate what Luke said there. We've got a powerhouse woman in the seat today. Alexia, I've had the privilege of getting to know you the last couple of years with my journey in Passive House, and it's always been a pleasure. To just touch on what you just mentioned there, people are interested in finishes of a home, maybe the architecture of a home. For you, why Passive House? What's your draw?
Passive House makes sure that the building is built right. You can change your kitchen, you can change tiles, you can change the colour of your walls. All of the lipstick can be adjusted later, but getting the base right is what most people miss. And it's much harder to retrofit and change. And it's going to impact your happiness, really, and your health more than anything else. So it's really focused. I think the Passive House Association and the Institute, the work that PHI have done is really commendable because it's getting the basics right and really proving the point of what are the long-term impacts and short-term impacts for occupants and society if we build better and build correctly. I mean, isn't it crazy to think how we are building? And once you understand Passive House, you can't look back. Everyone talks about the rabbit hole, and I understand why.
It's a head first dive, isn't it?
Definitely. Once you know, and you can't turn the other way. I actually tried to a couple of times. I think we've just had a couple of reels that were just put on Build Insight or our Back and Builders feed, one of the two, where we've got a really high performing home. It's not Passive House, but it's we've got below 0.6 air changes on it, and it's got triple glazed windows, and it's in the cold climate. So we've had some disgusting days with the wind, and you're in there nice and cozy, and there's just a calmness to these houses and the way they're scientifically checked. I wish we could get it on camera properly so everyone could kind of just experience it rather than just talk about it. But it is worthwhile sort of getting out to these houses and seeing the feel of them.
Yeah, I think that's actually the number one reason why people attend the open days is because they know they need to feel it. And we thought the same thing. So we hired a professional in film production, And we wrote guidance for what all of the members could do on their iPhones to record people's experience and get them to say how they felt. And then I was looking after that project out of the team. We're a small team. We're 8 now, which I'm pretty proud of. But, we were 4 just 2 years ago. So it's a lot of growth, a lot of change. And I got crook and I was out for 2 weeks. I couldn't walk. I was so bad. We briefed everybody that we were going to do this big film thing all around Australia across 29 sites to get this content. And then it fell to bits. And all was around the project. Well, maybe next year we'll have that for you to use.
Work in progress. I like it.
That's the thing, though. You need to actually experience it to understand what it feels like and what the experience is, because I don't think you can really articulate it. That's why I want to film people so you can see how they're reacting.
Alexia, obviously Passive House is a standard of building, but what's the primary role of the Passive House Association? How did that become? How was that formed?
The organisation was created, I think it's nearly 13 years old, and as a pillar for the advocacy, education and promotion of the standard in Australia. They're called 3 areas that we focus on, but what that actually means is we get into the detail of understanding how the standard is performing in Australia and globally, and then we sell those success stories into the local market. And we will be the centre of, we'll have developers come to us, for example, and they'll talk to us about their project aspirations and ask us for the information they need to be able to get their feasibility off the ground and be introduced to the right people in the market. We could also then move into doing that role with government. This is just in one day. I'll give you a snapshot of some of the things that hit our desk. Or we might be contacted by a university who would like to send out a survey to do a study on occupants and what their experience is like in a passive house. Then we run educational courses, and we have a policy team that writes submissions to government, proactive and reactive. So it's a variety of different tasks that we have in really making sure that the standard is well represented in Australia. And the thing that's unusual about us is you've got all of the players in the room. So you'll have a manufacturer who have an even seat at the table with a builder, a designer, an engineer, and they're all equals in our membership. That's a really unusual thing. And across my career, it taught me that that's what gets the best in a project, but also in an association where you have all the supply chain coming together to solve a problem as a team.
It just keeps circling back to collaboration, doesn't it, Dean? We actually... We had a podcast recording already today before yours, Alexia, and it just kept coming up again about collaboration the whole time. It is one of the key elements to success for, doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's a skill. Not everyone is a good collaborator, and skill and a culture is like, the cultural piece, but you can either have it or you can't, and you can change to make that happen, but it takes time because some people are naturally bit more guarded and don't really understand what it takes to be a good collaborator.
I think we see that. There's a lot of, I suppose it's an older mentality maybe. I feel like, and you might vouch for this, Alexia, with the community involved with the Passive House in Australia. And there's been a lot of people from different areas, whether it's architecture or could be just carpenters who are really intrigued. I know we've had a carpenter that's gone to the Thrive conference this year off his own bat just to go and advance his education. But I feel like holding on to what you knew from years ago and just keep doing that same thing, well, it now just doesn't work because you're now forced to advance to the NCC as that's advanced this year and it's come in across Australia-wide different times. But it's definitely a great space, and I've probably found from our business point of view, doing the tradesperson course was just such a fantastic step, and that was run through the association, and I found that was a great evolution for what my knowledge was, because it was able to get in, sit down with designers. The manufacturers is a massive one. You can have, conversations with guys like Joel from Fantech and the Pro Climber guys, and that gives you a world of knowledge that you just wouldn't get by yourself. You might get there, but it might take a hell of a lot longer, and maybe some mistakes along the way to learn that.
Yeah, that's one of the loveliest things about what we do is we're sitting in between a whole bunch of people that you don't join an association unless you want to give back as much as you want to take. So the people that we're surrounded by are all looking to help one another. And, we're at the heart of this awesome community of people that are looking to do great things for society, the planet, and each other. There's a lot of lovely parts to the day in the work that we do.
Alexia, where do you think Australia is situated in terms of some of the more advanced countries that have been implementing Passive House for decades?
Behind.
Next question.
One of our members just got back from their conference in China a couple of days ago. And I get snippets of information. I don't have enough time to spend looking at what's happening globally, unfortunately. It's, one of those things that is a pleasure to be able to absorb a lot of information. But I did know that they are really kicking ass. And they've got a lot of incentives in their planning legislation, and it goes for higher quality performance. So not necessarily a mandate, but the incentives are quite helpful. And then you can see, that mandates popping up like Scotland. That's an amazing piece of work there and really great. Unfortunately, in Australia, there's not the types there. I mean, you can look at the announcement in South Australia that they've frozen any updates for 10 years to the code. That's just, I'm going to say it's batshit crazy, isn't it? Never thought in my life I was going to see that. So, I mean, that in itself is probably all I need to say to answer that question.
Alexia, we sort of touched on this a little bit pre-recording, but Australia has some real housing stock issues, and what's being built also is at the forefront of being issues in itself. But what are some of the things that the association are doing to, I suppose, lift the industry along with the education and tools that you're providing?
Well, we've got an educational program where we actually send people out to offices, and that could be for anybody. So, or any community space, and they'll give presentations. So we've had 900 people go through that this year. We run open homes where we have really practical, I think I mentioned it before, viewing for people to attend and learn. And then we're spending a lot of time talking to local government. So, we ran a program last year where we had about a third of the participants are from local government, and they're the employees that are sitting in the planning team that are slowing things down sometimes. So that not because they don't want to see progress, is, Passive House is new and they want to learn about it. There's a couple of goals in that program. It's called the Passive House Incubator, and we had 63 representatives from social housing, private property developers, government agencies in codes or in like education. We had the Department of Education across a couple of different agencies come, and we're uplifting and educating them about Passive House. We thought we've got limited resources. How can we make a bigger impact? So we wanted to go directly to the people that are influencing the policies to help them to uplift those policies to create a quicker pathways to Passive House and just to understand what it was.
One other thing I know that you guys are doing that's going great guns and growing by the year is the Thrive Conference. It was Sydney last year and Melbourne this year. Can you just maybe explain to some of the listeners that are learning about Passive House and the association, what are some of the things that the people can get out of the conference? Some learnings, presenters, and maybe is it been announced? I can't recall if it's been announced where next year's is.
Melbourne again. Sorry to break some hearts, but
name.
I think we were hoping for New Zealand or Tasmania or something.
I had quite a few, but Tasmania, there was one for Queensland too.
It is warmer.
Okay, the conference, I think that the number one thing around the conference is being able to see everybody together in the room and be connected with your networks. But I also don't get time to sit and listen to all the presentations at the session. I listen to them beforehand, and they're outstanding. They're really core bits of information that you can take and apply to, I think, any project. Doesn't matter if the speech is talking about an education project and you're not working in that space. I think the lessons are transferable a lot of the time. And we work really hard to make sure there's something that I'd like to tell people about the Thrive conference that not many people know is that when we curate the content, we actually have a list of all of the stakeholders in the room, and we make sure we tick off, does this presentation, is it suitable for just a general person in the community? Is it equally going to be interesting for a builder? Will it make an engineer excited? And we try and think, well, what are all of the people and their own backgrounds and skill sets, and will they take something from this content? If it doesn't meet that criteria, there's a couple that every now and then don't meet all, but meet the most. We don't let them pass through. So we do try and think about all of the different skill sets in the room. I think it's getting a good result because we're getting awesome feedback. People just love the content. We also select them blind. So we don't know who you are and who you work for and whether you're a male or female, or we assess the criteria. So we have that all taken out. The names of the project, all of that information will be removed before it goes through to the committee for selection. So that blind recruitment process really strips back some of the glam you might get if you're from, a sexy architectural practice, that's really well known, it's got great marketing, or same with, top-notch builder. We're really testing you on what are you saying about this project, or what are you saying about this bit of information? Is this going to be something we want to give, a world-class stage? I think it's, we're getting amazing feedback. The conference grew by 44% last year. It's a pretty awesome outcome. And it's just an awesome buzz in the room. The other thing that stands out that I think is really practical is we have site tours that are attached to that. We're actually having a meeting today about something fun we're organising for next year. And there is a trade show, and the trade show has around 20 companies that are exhibiting their products.
And that trade shows, that's a part of the conference, is it?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
you can walk through it. We will always put the food inside to make sure people definitely go through it. I don't actually think we need to, because everybody, they're equally as excited to go through the trade show. When I was at the Institute of Architects, we would do that as a strategy to make sure people went through, and it is mixed, But for us, particularly because the product is so important to being able to make sure that the project performs, there's a different commitment to making sure that people are across what's in the market.
So training and education is it's a pretty big part of what the association do for our professionals, so that the members have got the knowledge to design and build better homes. Do you think there's a place in our trade schools or TAFEs for passive house training, or at least some sort of implementation in the early stages?
Definitely. I'd like to see a day where passive house is taught as the baseline. But no, it's just the minimum expectation, whether the code required it or not. If you're learning how to build a passive house, you're going to be able to do anything that the code's throwing you in the future, aren't you? So, future-proofing education by turning that around.
I feel like we've just got another apprentice that's becoming qualified tomorrow, and I think the standard of our trade school, I don't really think it's probably changed too much since I've got uncles that were carpenters, they're in their 70s. Maybe it was still the same back then. So I feel like, some advancement in leveling up the industry really needs to start right from the get-go with our school-based apprenticeship stuff that's there. It's pretty easy to get out and organise TAFEs to come out for open days to builders' sites and get some live education on this.
I need to jump in here for a minute, guys, and take a moment to thank our sponsors, Backman Builders, Calorie Building and Build Imagery. Without the support of these businesses, the Build Insite podcast wouldn't be possible. So jump over and show the support for them so they can continue to support the Build Insite podcast.
Yeah. We've made some adjustments to our education department over the last year and a half, and we've got some more to come. Because, it's a big jump from doing a 1-hour webinar about passive house or to, committing to a 2-month program and sitting the exam. And we've got a couple of other entry points in between now. So there's a 1-day and half-day introduction to passive house that we do face-to-face all around the nation. It's been a beast for such a small team of ours to get that together. But it's going really well, and people love that interaction. It's a really soft landing pad for people to start learning about passive house. And we've opened up the practical training day that program would usually just be for participants of our tradesperson course. But the thing is that you can be working with someone that's a certified Passive House tradesperson who's leading a project, and you don't want to go and do that course straight away, but you'd like to have more practical skills to apply to a project. It kind of suited people from a different direction. We weren't servicing that. So we've opened it up and they fill out now. It's really great, and is actually turned into what we hoped it would, a soft entry point for people to then go and sit the 2-month course.
So I know I'm quite new into this space as well, Alexia. I actually only signed up last night to the current intake to do the tradesperson course myself. I did actually get asked recently by a potential client, do you actually need to be, do you need to have done the tradesperson's course to actually build a certified passive house, or is there other avenues that you can do to tick off sort of essentially the checklist to get it over the line without that training?
You could try, but I think it would be bloody hard. It's, I've got people that have in our membership that finished the course years ago and just didn't have a client that was ready to certify. And so they built it, they done what they thought was best in terms of, following the quality assurance steps of Passive House, but they hadn't actually gone through the process. And they've done it and gone, holy moly, like I wasn't ready for that. And that's after they've done the education. So, we are raising the bar on what we expect of the market. And of course, there is going to be an educational requirement that sits behind it.
Is it something that anyone can sign up at any time, or you've got, how often can people jump on board and do the course? There's 5 courses a year at the moment. So we have a lot more trades doing the program than we do designers. So 5 is a fair bit for us. Trying to think, there's around 30 people on each course, or it varies, sometimes 20 to 30 each course. There's always an opportunity. We also have a new online 24/7, replay department coming through. So there's small, short courses in between 1 to 2 hours each on different topics like thermal bridging, an introduction to Passive House. That's just a 2-hour one, and it's all self-paced. So that will help some people that are looking to dip their toe in the water without facing a big commitment.
Alexia, can we maybe just touch on too, like obviously most people doing the course, whether it's a tradesperson course or the designer's course, are working full-time, maybe have families and other commitments, but how's the courses structured? Can we step through that? How long they take, what's involved, just to encourage people that it's not something you need to drop your life for and throw everything else out the window.
This is a funny one actually, because every now and then we get somebody that says, you need to start doing this face-to-face. People don't want to be learning at a computer. Anyway, I thought, okay, there's merit in this. We went out, we did a survey of the people that had done the last few rounds of the tradesperson course. I thought, we need to do this. This is good feedback. Let's action it. No one wants a face-to-face, like 2 or 3 days out of the office. People want to fit it in around their life, their family, their jobs. So it's staying as it is. It's on a Tuesday or a Thursday, a couple of hours a week. You've got a self-paced component, which is an hour. And then you've got an online live component where you can speak to trainers and ask them questions about the content. And so it fits in with everybody's life, which is the most important part, because it's quite detailed content. We then have an online chat forum where you can communicate with the trainer or other course participants to ask questions all the time. So there's lots of different sources of information and connection points to make sure that while you're driving, your participation in the program, you can maximise it and you're supported.
One other thing that you guys are doing that's Australia-wide, Alexia, is the state chapters. Do you mind just touching on that? There's obviously every state's got a chapter from Passive House Association.
Yeah, and they're meetings that take place once a month. And they're really great for people of all different skill sets and entry points into Passive House. So we get a lot of people when they're interested but haven't done the training yet, to people that have gone through and built, 5, 6, and built or designed 5 or 6, projects. So you can come to a meeting and you can ask people in a safe place tricky questions, which is what you need if you're doing anything new anywhere in society, but you don't always have. So we've worked really hard to make sure that there is a nice, comfortable, safe place for people to support one another. We have an extension in that, which is a new online forum, which has chat groups that are broken up by states and topics. So there's a lot of different soft and focused support that you get through the association. When one area we weren't supporting people very well was around certification. So we now run about 3 or 4 sessions a year where you can just ask to certify any tricky question. And all of the information that comes through that is then categorized and put into an online database. So it's available and we're building upon it every year, which is an amazing resource for the members.
Do you need to be an association member to attend those monthly chapter meetings?
Yes, you do, but don't need to be an association member to attend the Meet the Certifier and ask the questions, because we wanted them to be available to people that might be working on a project with our members or people that are looking to create a certified passive house or get one out in the market and hire people like yourselves. So we've tried to be careful in not devaluing membership, but unlocking things that are going to strategically support the market.
Yeah, we've touched on the community, Alexia, and it's obviously there's a lot of the community that are very sharing, whether it's from knowledge to building tips. And you've got to know the community probably better than nearly anybody, but is there anything in particular or any stories that really strike you for, I suppose, how welcoming and supportive the community is for the association?
Oh, this is probably not a story that you'd expect, but one of the people that helps me the most is Elrond, who is on the board of the New Zealand Association. I get a lot of support locally, and not making that comment to say that we're not having a great, amazing local community. We do. But for me, that speaks to the culture of Passive House being global, and which is stood out to me the most. It's the same as anyone that you meet around the world as it is in Australia. People that are willing to share and willing to reach out. So we've had a couple of issues that really it's interesting, all the same problems happen all around the world. No one's original or new. But it's also awesome because I've had things that happen in Australia that I know that New Zealand have been addressing. And they will literally send me the Word file. Like Elrond will send me the Word file. Here, this is what we've done. You can cut and paste it, you can edit as you like. So it's a global and really supportive community. It's just, I think you don't get that in other associations. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's a very strong point to what's happening in this space.
Yeah, and actually one of our members put me on display at a presentation he gave in China the other week. So I just got sent a photo of me on a screen in China. That was really sweaty. I did see
that on your socials. That might have been this morning or something that yesterday you put that on. But yeah, that's you must have been thinking, wow, that's incredible.
I didn't know how I got there, and this feeling, it was actually everyone. Everyone said, "Oh, I could put you up on the screen." I thought, "Oh, how lovely!" So, really lovely community of people that all support one another.
Very good. Now, I'm sure it can be testing at times being the CEO of such an amazing association like that. What do you do to unwind, Alexia? What do you do? What do you enjoy doing outside of work?
I am a solo parent to a 3-year-old. So outside of work, I don't really know my name. Whatever the weather allows. So last weekend we went to the monster trucks. We're spending some time on the coast over the summer, so heading down to the beach. I've recently bought a bike to put a baby seat on the back, which is a lot of fun. I like being outdoors, going for hikes, taking it easy, really.
Very good. Soaking in the outdoors, connecting back with a bit of nature.
Yeah.
Little funny story for you, Alexia. We over the July school holidays decided to drive up to Noosa for our sort of annual warmer getaway. And as you know, I've got 4 daughters, and Nicole, my wife, thought, I'm going to just track how many times while we're driving. So I think we had about a 7-8 hour drive. How many times mum gets yelled out from one of any of the 4. And I think it was something like 117 times or, something like that. So it was whatever it worked out to in the car. It was every like 3 or 4 minutes or something like that. And it was like, all right, point taken. Because if they had said how many times dad was said, it wouldn't have cracked more than 10. Something I'd like to, we follow you, not your personal account too, with your Instagram side of things, and just like to touch on women in the workforce. Like I've just said, I'm a father of 4 girls, and I've got a wife who's in interior design with her own business, and I've been in the industry for a couple of decades now, and I think I've seen the change from the old, I suppose, male-dominated industry, and even 5 years ago, I probably would have said I probably wouldn't want my daughters in the building industry, but I think that's definitely changed. There's probably still some sectors and certain job sites or companies that might not say the same thing, but I believe I can. And but what would be some tips for yourself, talking to a young woman who's thinking of getting involved in the building industry at any capacity?
Always put your hand up and say yes to new experiences and do things that scare you. I've been doing work like this since I was in my early 20s. I was really, to be completely honest, shitting myself being, at a boardroom table with a minister there, or the CEO or the state manager for, multinational engineering firms. There's a lot, and I'm not going to lie. And just got to work through it and ask people for help. I think even in my current role, we all need to support each other. We all have different skill sets and different backgrounds. I always think that the smartest people in the room are willing to ask for help, because they're willing to back themselves. They know what they're doing, but no one can know everything. It's actually impossible. They're the 2 main things. And surround yourself by good people. Interestingly, the people that I find the most supportive to me are generally men. And I think that really breaks down a lot of assumptions and how the market works. Found that women will rip people down faster than, women will rip women down faster than men will. My support crew and the people that are behind me most of the time, not all, but is largely men. So, it's good for people to also shake off any assumptions about how things might work and who might be your biggest block in the market. It's not necessarily who you think it is.
Where anyone wanting to follow along more or find out more, Alexia, where can people find out more about the association?
If you Google Australian Passive House Association, it will pop up. If you Google Passive House, it will pop up straight away, which is good. Noting, we spell Passive House the German way now, not passive and house, 2 separate words. We've changed it. There's a lot of resources on the website. We now have a new publications and submissions page when you can see all the submissions that we're sending through to government, which is great. And we've got 4 publications that the association has produced themselves, and then also a link to publications that have been created from all around the world. Once you start to realise how building science works and how the passive house calculations work, you realise just how relevant all of that information from all around the world is for Australia. So don't be afraid to dive into things that are released by our international counterparts as well as us. We also have a Vimeo channel, so anyone can keep up to date with that content, and we're extremely active on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Very cool. I look forward to hopefully actually being able to share over the next couple of months my journey through actually doing the tradesperson course, and actually put a little bit of insight up on Build Insite and share, and hopefully encourage others to get on board and do so as well.
Yeah, maybe I think you.
That'd be great, actually. Yeah, we'll come back on another couple of months and you can interview me.
Alexia, just one quick question, because I'm probably not aware at the moment, but is there a figure on how many certified passive houses we're up to in Australia?
So just under 100, and there's another 300 in the pipeline. We're about to release some guidance material on what are the requirements that a building needs to admit to be called a passive house. So watch this space, because I think there's going to be a couple of shockers in there for people that had made some assumptions on what this actually means. The definition and the meaning has always been there. We just haven't provided good guidance on it to now. We're a small organisation that's growing, so it's fine to have the time to address it. keep an eye out for that. Can I ask you two a question? What do you think is the key thing that the association should do to attract more trades people or builders to Passive House?
That's a good question.
You go first, Dean.
Yeah, I've probably spoken to a lot of people about this, but I think to really just simplify, we speak to a lot of people. We have a lot of people approach Build Insite about what we're doing, from just a better building practice across the board. And I think there's a lot of fear with part of the industry that don't kind of know where to take the steps. I think simplifying it, there's a lot of elements to building and there's a lot of elements to get right with Passive House. And you can't just click your fingers and it's done properly. You've got to work collaboratively all the way through. I really think simplifying things is going to be best for people to kind of, I suppose, get enticed in and get the education. That would probably be my advice, is just, start from the bottom. Start with the little things. I've always said just doing like a blower door test on any of your sites and just learning about air tightness and building your knowledge from the basics.
I think you definitely nailed it there, Dean. It's definitely the fear. People are always scared of change. That's going to be the most scary thing, is especially if you've been in the industry for quite some time, you've been taught for, potentially 5, 10, 15 years that's how houses will get built. And all of a sudden someone comes along telling you there's this standard that's worlds above what you've been building. That can be absolutely bloody terrifying. So I think, definitely simplifying it. What else can we do, I suppose? I guess it's just getting more people like us on board and sort of shouting from the rooftops that, it's okay to build better. Just because that's what the industry puts out there, that like the National Construction Code changes, still remembering that is the bare minimum. That's the one step above being illegal. There's definitely better ways to build that. Where else am I going with this? Probably building healthier homes. I think that's definitely one of the biggest advantages of Passive House is the old school broken way is just because it looks good, it doesn't necessarily mean it performs well or is a comfortable and healthy environment to be living in. It's always education. It's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's funny because we get, every now and then we get a member that goes, "You're not speaking to government enough." It's like, they're not going to mandate any change anytime soon until they see it for themselves. They learn, there's a soft entry point to any change, and we're still there. We've still got a lot of work. We've done amazing work, but got a lot of that to go. And I appreciate that your comments around simplifications. And sometimes, every now and then, actually, we did a survey to the members this week, and a couple of people, the technical people, love to do this. Not all the time. We really damned it out, but not a whole. You can never stop this completely. A couple of people said the staff aren't technical, hiding behind their keyboard, keyboard warriors. And they're everywhere, not just that. But the reality is that if it takes somebody technical to sell this standard, well, we're going to be moving really slow, right? And we're not going to get anywhere very fast. We have to be able to get non-technical people to be able to sell it. So thank you. It's nice to hear those comments. We've got some more work to do, but it's good feedback.
Realistically, I'm not a CEO of an association. I'm running a business and building houses, and I don't design. I don't do engineering. I don't do a whole bunch of things that we require to actually build any home. But you've got to have an understanding of what each person does. I still really think that there's an element, this is not just association, Passive House related topic, but I think there's a level across the board that, say, an architect doesn't really understand unless they try to learn more from a builder's perspective. I don't think an engineer sometimes has the practical knowledge of what needs to be done on site for something that's designed. It goes right across the board, like from, what it's understood. Like, you might be a sole trader set up to design homes. You don't understand what it's like to deal with contractors, pay wages, all sorts of stuff. So I think simplifying things, not just for Passive House, is pretty relevant. I think we all learn over time. You can't just wake up one day and know everything. I think we had Heath on from Sam I Am Building a few weeks ago, and I think he put it pretty well. I'll retire and die and not know everything. So, you need to rely on other people that are professionals, and that goes likewise for people who aren't builders. They need to rely on, quality builders as well, as much as we need to rely on them.
Yeah, that's right. It takes a village.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, we might have to catch up again, Alexia, maybe in person at Thrive in Melbourne again next year. So it's exciting. I won't have to get on a plane. We'll catch you in our town.
Yeah, that'd be good. And you're going to be putting in a submission to speak this year, aren't you?
I think we are. I think we were close last year. We might have to just do some interviews instead.
Oh, you're welcome to. I'm locking you into that now.
Nah, always happy to chat, Alexia. But we know you're very busy, and especially with the 3-year-old in tow. So it's always a pleasure catching up and having a chat.
Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it, and look forward to interviewing Luke soon.
Awesome. That's a wrap on this one, guys. Thanks so much, Alexia, for joining us out of an incredibly busy schedule, I am sure. Guys, I look forward to sharing my Passive House tradesperson course journey with you over the next couple of months. Hopefully put a bit of information out there and encourage anyone else to jump on board and do the course themselves as well. That is the end of another episode. Thanks for joining us, guys. We look forward to catching you on another episode soon. Let's cue the disclaimer. I need to let you know that myself and the Build Insite team are in no way, shape or form qualified to give you personal or specific business advice. We strongly encourage you seek out the use of professionals for products or when you are making personal or business decisions. Everything discussed during the Build Insite podcast is our own and the guest opinion and personal experience and is of a general nature only. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Catch you on the next one.